Today, we're doing my most requested recipe, smoked brisket. And we're gonna cover everything from how to trim it and prep it to how to tell if your brisket is done. You're not gonna wanna miss it. This is Coach Sean's Kitchen. Now when smoking brisket, the first thing I'm going to do is pat it dry with a paper towel. Then I'm going to start trimming and shaping my brisket. There are two schools of thought when trimming a brisket: competition style and backyard barbecue style. Competition style, we would trim off every ounce of fat off of this brisket, and backyard style, you just throw the brisket on your pit and let it go. I'm going to shoot for something in the middle. My goal when trimming a brisket is to remove fat off the lean, flat side, to trim off any of those ends that are just going to burn off on the pit, and then to cut off any of that inedible fat that's not gonna render no matter how long you smoke it. Once I've trimmed up the lean side, I'm gonna turn my attention to the fatty side. I'm looking for 1/4 inch of fat across this whole fat cap. This is something I specifically look for on briskets when I pick one out, and this one had a good 1/4 inch of fat across the whole side, so it really doesn't need much work. Now that my brisket is looking good, it's time to get it seasoned up. I start with seasoning the fatty side and the edges. This is because I want the lean side to be my presentation side, and I want it to look the best. For this brisket, I'm gonna be using a few different rubs to create some layers of flavor. The first thing I'm gonna use is some salt. This is an 18-pound brisket. It's gonna need quite a little bit of seasoning on it, so be generous here. Next, I'm gonna begin creating those layers of flavors. Today, I'm using 2 rubs from Halo and Cleaver. I love this company's products because they're clean, paleo, and most importantly, they're damn good. So the first rub I'm gonna be using is their Bee Sting rub. This is a great way to add some sweetness to your food without any added sugars. The next rub I'm gonna use is their Cajun rub. This is gonna add some much desired heat. The last thing I'm gonna put on is a coarse rub, like Montreal steak seasoning. This has big chunks of granulated garlic, onion, and pepper, and it's gonna give a nice contrast to that soft smoked brisket. This brisket is looking good, so it's time to head out to the pit. Today, I'm gonna be smoking on my Traeger grill, and I've got it running at 225 and full of cherry pellets. I love what that fruity wood can do for a brisket. Now it's time for that age-old question: fat side up or fat side down? I cook my brisket fat side down. On my Traeger grill, the heat source is right on the middle and underneath the brisket. This is creating a hot spot. By putting the fat side down, I have a layer of protection between that hot heat source and my brisket, and that helps to prevent it from overcooking. When placing the brisket on the smoker, pay attention to the grain of the brisket and which way those muscle fibers are lying, and line them up. Then when we come back and cut it, those muscle fibers are gonna be very short, leading to a more tender brisket. So this brisket is looking good, so I'm gonna go ahead and shut my Traeger, and I'm not gonna look at it for 12 hours. So it's been 12 hours, and this is the first time I've opened my Traeger. And as you can see, we've got a great color on the outside, and we've got nice bark formation. So I'm gonna use my Thermapen to get an idea of where I'm at. And I am without a doubt in the stall. The stall is when that internal moisture in the brisket starts evaporating, and as it moves out of the brisket, it cools it as it goes. This happens around 155 to 165 degrees, and you can be stuck here for hours. If you were gonna do a wrapped brisket, as soon as it hits this stall is when you would wrap your brisket, but that's a different episode. After this point, I'm gonna begin checking my brisket every hour. What I'm looking for is my Thermapen to go in like butter. Temperature is a good gauge for doneness on brisket, but unless my Thermapen is easily inserted in multiple areas of that brisket, it's not done. I've pulled brisket off of smokers anywhere from 190 to over 210 degrees. As you can see, this pan is going in without any resistance, and the temperature is spot on. Let's pull it. Now, on to the most difficult step when making a smoked brisket: resting it. This brisket has been on the pit for a few hours. It needs time to relax before you start carving it. Your patience will be rewarded. It's been a few hours, let's go ahead and start carving this brisket. I'm gonna cut it right down the middle to give you an idea of how it came out. And as you can see, it is so juicy, so tender, and we have a beautiful smoke ring running around the outside of that brisket. Now, to tell if you cooked your brisket perfectly, barbecue pitmasters will often use what is called the hang test. And this is if you take a slice of brisket and you dangle it over one of your fingers, it should droop down both sides without tearing. And then if you give your brisket a little bit of a tug, it should come apart with little to no resistance. Now that is a perfect brisket. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Coach Sean's Kitchen. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so, and let me know in the comments what you guys want to see next. And as always, guys, enjoy.